And the newest account manager out of Orange County, Ashley Christensen. I honestly have no idea where that picture came from. It doesn't even look like me. I have the privilege of being able to talk about one of the most accomplished and dynamic offices in the country. I get to talk about Chicago today. And the most enthusiastic as well. By the way, when I talk about Chicago, I'm not just talking about Rosemont or just about downtown. We obviously split that office last summer. But when I think of Chicago, I think of the unit. I think of the market. So just kind of make that clear. That's what I'm referring to when I refer to Chicago. Last summer I went down to Atlanta, and I had an opportunity to have lunch with Glenn. And after we were done talking about Halo and Twilight series and Game of Thrones, we talked about everything that Chicago has been able to accomplish in the last couple of years. And he gave me a huge compliment. He gave Chicago a huge compliment. He said that Chicago was arguably the best office in the country. If you know Glenn, he threw the word arguably out there because he didn't want to make my head get too big or anything like that. But anyways, so when Bert asked me, he said, hey, can you get on stage? Can you say a few things about Chicago this weekend? I was like, yes, absolutely. And I immediately went back to that day, thinking about, okay, Chicago has accomplished a lot. But how have they been able to accomplish so much? Year after year, quarter after quarter, consistently, they always deliver huge numbers. What are they doing differently? What are they doing? And then it dawns on me as I'm looking and I'm going over stuff and I'm checking out how we process our days. I see it. Hits me right in the face. The number one reason why Chicago is able to produce the numbers that they produce, and the reason Inside Global has been able to grow as much as we have, boils down to one segment of the sales process. And the number one reason we are successful is because of the constant utilization and updating of the desktop calendar. Nothing? Seriously, it is a part of the process, and if you don't document there, I'm going to yell at you. I do want to talk about some of the stats and statistics out of Chicago over the last couple of years, because I am very proud of them. In the last few years, Chicago has had 48 promotions. They've produced 22 new contest winners. They've broken over 100 accounts. And in the last couple of years, they've grown the Chicago market 400%. And last year, okay, based on my numbers, not Hubbard's numbers, because I like my numbers better because they're bigger, I got them down as a $94,000 growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, okay? You guys are absolutely amazing. But that's not the stat that really sticks out at me. The stat that sticks out at me is the amount of leadership that's come out of Chicago in the last couple of years, okay? In the last couple of years, Chicago has been able to produce 10 leaders in this company that are either now national account managers or sales managers. And not to spoil anything, thank you, not to spoil anything, but that number is actually going to increase to 12 by the time I get off the stage. Ooh. But how? How is Chicago doing it? People ask me all the time, what does Chicago do differently? What do they do differently? And here's the honest answer. Nothing. They do not do anything really different than any other office in the country. It's about how they execute differently than certain offices, certain companies. If you really think about it, look at the company, right? Inside Global is the fastest growing technical staffing firm in the history of technical staffing. We're looking at $900 million in sales, and we've done it in the worst financial decade in modern history. All right? This is incredible. How are we able to outproduce our competition? How are we able to consistently grow in the face of adversity? When our competition goes down or they flatline, we continuously grow. It's because we out-execute the exact process that they take. They CPF people, they do reference checks, okay? They bring people in for an in-house, they do almost the exact same thing we do. But the attention to detail and the pride we take in doing that job makes us better. And that's how we grow. It's the 1,000 little things. And in Chicago, they execute like no other team that I've ever been associated with. They're a well-oiled machine. They are a well-oiled machine. They act more like a professional football team than they do actually a staffing firm. Look at it like this. There's 11 men on offense, there's 11 men on defense. There's recruiters, there's salespeople. You got your special teams players, you got your corporate recruiters, you got your compliance people and your resource managers, you got your leaders, you got everyone all working together towards a common goal. And each person on this team knows that they have to execute perfectly in order for you to win the game. Now, there's 150 plays in the average football game, 75 on offense, 75 on defense. But they say that that game will be determined by 3 plays. 3 plays out of 150 will determine the outcome of that game. It's 3 plays in which one team out-executes the other, and they win. And that's Chicago. They know it. When an account manager brings in a requirement, that requirement's got to be perfect. You all know this. Every detail's got to be on that requirement. Every question has to be answered. And we need to know everything about that team, that manager, their expectations, and that rec needs to be crisp. In Chicago, it's crisp. They bring it back to the office, and they give it to our pros. That's when the pros take over, okay? And by the way, the pros are the unsung hero of Inside Global. When times are low, they are. You don't get enough credit. I can personally say that when we were at our lowest, when attrition was high, when we didn't have enough recruiters to fill requirements, it was the pros that dug us out of that hole, and they'll do it for all of you as well. I love my pros. All right? But they scrutinize the requirement. They scrutinize the requirement, they look at it, and they say, what don't I know about this rec? What can't I see here, right? Right? What question is inside the question that helps me fill this requirement? And what question didn't my competition ask? That's when they recall this requirement, okay? They go in there and they raise value in that conversation. They don't just regurgitate the information that's on the page. They dig in and they find out and they raise value. And they assure me and the rest of the office that this is a hot requirement, and they give their stamp of approval. The requirement goes back off into the office, and that's when the recruiters take over, right? There might be one recruiter on it, might be a team of recruiters, might be an army of freaking recruiters on this requirement, depending on how urgent it is, all right? And they go to work. It's really not that funny. I mean it. And by the way, I'm not really getting all excited. This is kind of just how I talk. Why are you yelling at me, Kirby? I'm not. I'm excited. I'm happy. They go after it. They're leaving dynamic messages. They're running the process perfectly. They run the process perfectly, and they're calling people, right? They're going to call as many people as it takes to get somebody on the line. And every single person that they talk to in the CPF that can't do the job, that person goes into the hot book, right? Every single time. They know they're going to need that hot book. They know that they need it, and they're going to fill it with the good. But finally, they get that one person, right? They get this one person that they feel has the technical ability to do this job. They're in the price range, they're in the right location, they've got everything that we're looking for on paper to be able to do this job, and they're available. And the direct labor rate is low. It's at that point in time, they lock them down one last time, and they present that person to the account manager. Account manager, fully aware that they must execute their portion of the sales process. They've already got a follow-up on the books. The submittal goes over. It is assumptive. Most of the time. It is assumptive, and they have a follow-up meeting already in the books, and the rec will naturally close itself. It's about executing perfectly. That is the expectations in Chicago, and we say this all the time. Expectations do not change. All right? This is how they execute. Sounds easy, right? So easy, right? Get a good rec, have a pro qualify, and put it to work. But it's not easy. In fact, it's hard. We love to celebrate. I personally love to celebrate the success of this company, right? I think I dig it the most. And we talk about all the things that are great about us and all the things that have to do with celebration. We talk about the amount of money that we can make here. We talk about the stock program. We talk about conference. We talk about going to the Bahamas and incentive units and all the things that we cherish within this company. But what we don't always talk about is the fact that every now and again, this job is a son of a bitch. It is hard, and I like it like that. I get certain satisfaction. Don't you like it? Come on. You guys do a job. You guys do a job that most people can't do, and I love that, okay? But every now and again, it is hard, and there's going to be a day in which you get pushed. You're going to get pushed, you're going to get challenged, and you're going to have to face adversity like you've never faced. It happens to most people in this room. If it hasn't happened to you yet, it's probably going to. Right? And it doesn't matter if you're a recruiter or an account manager, a sales manager, director, regional, whatever role it is. Chances are this day is going to come We address this in the city of Chicago. We talk about it, we embrace it, and we celebrate that. Eli doesn't know this. Where's Eli at? Eli, I'm sorry what I'm about to say. That makes your job harder. But every single internal interview that I have an opportunity to go to lunch with, okay, their final interview, and if I want to extend them an offer, I have a very frank conversation about what my expectations would be if they were to face adversity. And I describe to them a day in the life of that person, on the day where they're pushed to the point, when they're pushed to the brink, in which they don't know if they can go one step further. I'm going to describe it to all of you. It's 5:30 in the morning. The alarm goes off, and you simply slide to the edge of your bed. And your feet hit the ground. Take a deep sigh. And you have what I comically refer to, but honestly it's pretty accurate in its description. You're going to have a what the fuck moment. Yeah. Maybe you're a recruiter trying to get promoted, trying to get it, trying to get things to click, and it's just not going your direction. Maybe you're an account manager, brand new, you can't seem to knock things out, you can't get above you can't get above your growth line. Might be a sales manager whose office has been stagnant for 6 months. Who knows what the situation is, but chances are you're going to have that day. And the only difference between the people that are no longer with us, that aren't celebrating with us this weekend, isn't whether or not they had this position or had that moment. It's what they did in the moment. Every single multi-year contest winner, sales manager, director of operations, regional manager, all the people that we say, hey, run our biggest accounts nationwide, run our best offices, they've all had that moment, just like that person had in that moment. But they didn't respond with, I'm giving up. They took one more look at the ground, another deep breath, and they looked up and they said, not today. Not today, I'm not going out like this. All right? And they get up, and they march their ass into the bathroom, and they turn on the shower. They get underneath, they start to metaphorically kind of wash away any type of feeling of doubt that they have. And if they say to themselves, I'm going to do this, I'm going to recommit, okay? And then all of a sudden, a paradigm shift happens. Something happens inside them. They say, not only am I going to get through this moment, but I'm going to make this moment a defining moment of my career. It's on this day that I recommit myself to Inside Global and our processes. I recommit myself to my peers, to my office, and to my management. And today, I'm going to be 1% better than I was yesterday. The day after that, 1%. Day after that, 1%, 1%, until I hit my fucking goal. Why? Because that is what is expected of me in Chicago. And that is how winning is done in Chicago. Do we believe that is how winning is done nationwide? Well, now that I've said the words, and you know this day is coming, you're going to say, January 26th at 1:10 p.m., Kirby told me I was going to have this day. And how do I expect you to respond like champions? Why is Chicago grow so much? Because you guys execute like champions. And when adversity faces you, you hit it right in the face back. Rich had mentioned that I don't live in Chicago. I don't. I actually live in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I get up every Monday morning at 3 a.m. I get up every morning, grab 2 cups of coffee, and I head to Chicago. 2.5 hours later, I arrive. And I can honestly say there's never been one single moment where I doubted why. There's been not one single moment where I said, I didn't want to do this. And it is because of the Chicago office. I make this joke all the time, but I mean it. People say, Kirby, how many children do you have? I say, I have 62. I love you. I'll do anything for you, and you make my life so happy. Everybody, could you please give it up for Chicago? I would apologize for the F-bombs, but I'm not sorry, and that would just make me a liar. All right, we've got some promotions. I think we need to change the slide. And Lancioni, could you please join me up here on stage?
It started with the whisper, and that was when I kissed